The weeds which grew in my backyard had grown up to my waist. I watched day after day as they grew and grew and grew. Soon they had grown so high that it took the guy who mowed my front lawn 2 weeks to sharpen his equipment before he could even think about being able to tame it back. What was once my favorite place to sit out and feel at one with nature soon became a place I would no longer venture out into. Yes, it brought all sorts of fun animals, but it also brought with it an anxiety of the unknown. Beyond my control, the weeds just grew, and it felt like there was nothing that I could do. Then one day, Lynn Friedman and her crew came to revive my dream of a place to gather again. In one day, the weed eaters cleared my lawn, creating a blank slate to grow from scratch. What was most interesting, though, is that I couldn't have imagined the relief that I felt now that the lawn was finally under control. Finally, in this world of COVID, one thing was ordered, one thing tamed, one thing organized and manageable. I could feel myself breathing easier. It wasn't enough, however, to just clear out the weeds. I wanted a space that would function as an extension of my home, designed and grown intentionally and with care. So in this backyard, we designed anew. We connected the paths from the house to the synagogue path. We put down mulch over the newly exposed clay. We repurposed a tree stump to create a new seating area to capitalize on the different hours of shade. And yes, we kept the flowers that the butterflies seem to love so much. While the yard still has work to finish, to add color and some life again, the pruning back of the weeds which had so overwhelmed me allowed me to see and breathe clearly again. The high holidays, and especially Kol Nidre, are a time of pruning. We take a step back to reflect on the year. What were our goals? What was the type of person we wanted to be? What did we accomplish or experience, and who did we want to do that with? Surely there's much to celebrate, but in this reflection we also uncover areas where we missed the mark. There were times when we were short with loved ones. There were to-do lists that remain unchecked, buried under a pile of other unchecked to-do lists. There were trips that we had expected to take and concert tickets left unscanned when the walls closed in on our world. In what felt like a moment, the entire world shut down. Grown children went home to live with parents. Elderly parents went to live with children. We retreated to our homes to regroup and to reassess, and our screens became our windows into the world. In that moment, we had to decide what was truly important to us. In the long list of to-dos, we had to be intentional to get the important work done, and not just the most pressing work or whatever came across our ever-open inbox. Parents had to somehow work in between refereeing and play. Slowly but surely, we fell into a new routine, all while expecting life to go back to normal soon enough. And yet, soon enough still hasn't come. Instead, once again, the weeds have grown around our tired hopes and dreams. We're exhausted. We are fed up. We want our lives back again. The weeds have grown and they feel out of control. And it's really just tempting to curl up on the couch with some Netflix and a bottle of whiskey or a tub of ice cream or popcorn and numb our worries away with mindless entertainment. And as we sit, the weeds continue to grow and we continue to sink further into that couch. Kol Nidre offers us another chance. It's the weed eater for our spiritual lives, a chance to get up off the couch and say, even though I might need to be physically distant from others, I still need to be connected to that source of life that makes getting up every day a blessing. In our reflecting on the year that's passed, we can pay attention to how we reacted to the celebrations and the missed opportunities of the past year, and thereby realize what's truly important to us in the coming year. After the pruning, we can plant again from our values and grow our lives around those values, strategically, intentionally. Kol Nidre is the time to let go of or rethink those commitments which no longer sustain us, that have come to feel like obligation as opposed to privilege. It's the time to let go of our expectations and disappointments at what we had hoped to get done, but never got around to finishing, or maybe even starting. And it's time to let go of the relationships where we find that we constantly expend emotional energy without ever being replenished by it. In the space left by our pruning, we regain space for that which is truly sustaining and important in our lives, and then we build again. This is the opportunity of the moment. Do we see the world as a dead and withered garden, unworthy of repair, of love, of care? Or do we commit ourselves to what could be grown in this unique and precious moment? In her poem, What If 2020 Isn't Canceled?, Leslie Dwight writes, "What if 2020 isn't canceled? What if 2020 is the year we've been waiting for? A year so uncomfortable, so painful, so scary, so raw, that it finally forces us to grow. A year that screams so loud, finally awakening us from our ignorant slumber. A year we finally accept the need for change, declare change, work for change, become the change. A year we finally band together instead of pushing each other further apart. 2020 isn't canceled, but rather the most important year of them all." A few weeks have passed, and I've noticed that the weeds in my yard naturally are starting to grow back. It's probably easier to just let them grow back, but I know that sooner or later, if I don't take care of it now, I'm going to feel overwhelmed again by the task at hand, and all the time and energy put into creating this intentional space will have been for naught. So, I guess the first thing I'm going to do this new year is to go out and buy a weed eater. Who's going to join me?